makes its way to people left destitute by last week's Hualien earthquake. Residents of a partly collapsed building want answers about why their supposedly safe home fell in the earthquake. Warships from 4 countries patrol the South China Sea in a challenge to Beijing. Plus, a lion dance master keeps his art roaring into the future. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. Prepare for more aftershocks. That's the warning from officials here in Taiwan as the country continues to be rattled by tremors 5 days after a 7.2 magnitude earthquake. Since April 3rd, more than 700 magnitude 3 to 5 aftershocks have shaken the eastern city of Hualien near the epicenter of the quake. Another 27 were over magnitude 5. And while the frequency of aftershocks is slowing down, Taiwan's Central Weather Administration says more larger quakes could still happen. The death toll from Wednesday's tremor is now 13, with 6 others still missing. Dozens of people remain trapped by landslides in Taroko National Park, and aftershocks are hampering those rescue efforts. Meanwhile, Taiwan's Coast Guard has located 3 fishers who were reported missing after going out to sea on the morning of the first quake. Their vessel has been brought back to the harbor. Let's get more now from Hualien, which bore the brunt of the earthquake. Sally Jensen is at the site of one of the worst hit buildings. Sally, what's the recovery progress been like?
Behind me is one of the last remaining casualties of the magnitude 7.2 earthquake that struck some 15 kilometers from here less than a week ago. The Uranus building is being demolished floor by floor as the quake was so strong it tilted it at an angle. Residents have been relocated, but from here you can still see the furniture and interiors of many people's homes. Now this building is now a visual symbol of the earthquake's power. Earlier, we went to a disaster relief center in Hualien County where they're giving out donations and supplies to the hundreds of people whose lives have been left in tatters. Ms. Chiu has lived in Hualien her whole life, but she lost almost everything in the huge earthquake that rocked Taiwan last week. Like hundreds of others, she is now putting her life back together and collecting emergency funds from a charity. On Taiwan's east coast, Hualien was just 20 kilometers from the quake's epicenter.
这次真的是在我的经历最可怕跟最大的一次。然后这个地震的经验让我知道说生命的可贵，然后那个活着的每一分每一秒都很珍贵。
The magnitude 7.2 quake that struck 5 days ago killed at least 13 people, injured more than 1,000, and in this port city of 100,000 left many unhoused. In the days since, humanitarian organizations have worked with the government to set up tents, provide food, medical care, and transportation for victims. They're also distributing aid to those displaced and now staying with family or in government-provided accommodation. Just for this one day only, here at this primary school in Hualien, volunteers from Tzu, Taiwan's largest Buddhist foundation, are giving out cash and other donations to people affected by the earthquake, giving out more than $350,000 in aid. Founded in Hualien by a Buddhist nun in the 1960s, Tzu has a long history of disaster response, and it now has 10 million volunteers working in over 60 countries.
These people, they are hurt, they're sad, and they're afraid. What can we provide for them? More than just food, more than just money. I think we need to give them comfort. We need to give them a sense of support.
And the local government is grateful for the assistance. But beyond this initial response and the much-needed handouts, officials here say more needs to be done to help with long-term recovery.
也有碰到很大的一个困难，需要各界的帮助哈，因为政府的资源跟能力只能协助的部分是公的位置，但未来重建的部分，包括这些灾民哈，他们很长期的居住，甚至到房子的重建，可能要运用社会的善款来帮助。
Elsewhere in the country, recovery from the earthquake has been fairly fast. But here in Hualien, where most of the damage was done, it could be some time before families can fully rebuild their lives. Andy Xue, Scott Huang and Sally Jensen in Hualien County for TaiwanPlus. Immediate disaster relief is wrapping up in Hualien as people try to return to a semblance of normality. But the earthquake has left its mark. Taroko Gorge, a popular tourist site not far from here, is closed indefinitely because of major damage that saw hundreds of people stranded there for several days. Those people have since been rescued. And while the emergency humanitarian response draws to a close here, one thing's for certain: Hualien will bear the scars of the April 3rd earthquake for years to come.
Well, thank you, Sally. That was Sally Jensen reporting live from Hualien. In a first for Taiwan, the digital ministry says it has used satellites to send information to earthquake rescue personnel. The ministry says it connected a satellite in low Earth orbit with its OneWeb database. That helped create a network for helicopters transporting rescue teams and quake victims. It's the first time the country has used low Earth orbit technology as part of disaster response efforts. Reports suggest that the damaged building Sally Jensen reported from earlier may not have been ready for the tremor. Now its residents are demanding answers as they pick up the pieces. John Van Trieste has more.
Outside the crumbling wreckage of the Tianwangqing building, more than 50 former occupants stage a protest. Only one resident died in the earthquake that toppled the building last week, but the survivors have lost everything. Whatever possessions they couldn't carry out will soon be buried when workers tear down the condemned building. Supposedly, the building had been shored up for an earthquake like this after the government flagged it as possibly dangerous, and inspectors gave the building a clean bill of health. Now, there are questions about those repairs. Prosecutors have already collected blueprints of the building as evidence in a possible legal case. Residents are demanding a thorough investigation.
从0206到现在，我们居住的天王星大楼一直都是安全的。在0403 7点58分，我们的大楼还是安全的，但是在第二次地震的时候，把它摇倒了。我不知道是什么原因，我们也很想知道真相，不要对我们目前已经失去了安全的家园的二次伤害。
The delicate work of demolition has been slow. This is a built-up part of Hualien City, with nearby undamaged structures that need to be protected. There are structural complications too, and powerful aftershocks continue almost a week after the main earthquake, hampering progress.
余震的部分就是我们比较担心的，而且靠近这个立强饭店非常的近所以才会有赶快去装设这个型钢支撑，而且加设这个支柱。
The Tianwangqing building is one of only a handful damaged beyond repair in last week's earthquake. Reports around the world have praised Taiwan's building codes and disaster preparedness. But Tianwangxin's residents suspect the same institutions that kept damage to a minimum elsewhere may have failed them. Luffy Li and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The opposition Kuomintang says more needs to be done to ensure buildings are made safer from earthquakes. Party representatives are calling for new measures, including inspections of older buildings and greater incentives to get people to voluntarily rebuild their homes in line with current rules. Building codes have been significantly improved since a 1999 earthquake killed over 2,000 people. But the party says many homes and schools were built before then, and that the slow pace of retrofitting and urban reconstruction is putting the public at risk. Warships from the US, Japan, Australia, and the Philippines have carried out their first quadrilateral exercise in the South China Sea aimed at keeping a, quote, free and open Indo-Pacific. China also conducted maritime patrols in the region, saying that the US and its allies are adding to tensions in the sea. Tensions have been mounting there, with Beijing continuing to harass Philippine vessels in the disputed waterway. The exercises come just days before the US, Japan, and the Philippines are due to meet in Washington for a summit focused on Indo-Pacific security. For more on South China Sea tensions and what to expect from that summit, Jaime Ocon spoke to Ray Powell, a security analyst from the Sea Light Initiative at Stanford University.
So, Ray, I want to first start off with this quadrilateral exercise. We saw the United States, Japan, the Philippines, and now also Australia coming together for this drill. Can you explain the significance of that?
So I think, with the patrol itself, I think it was a target of opportunity for Australia. They had a ship in the area. They thought, we might as well. So I think, Australia doesn't spend a ton of time in the South China Sea. It is a long way north for them. But it was an opportunity, and so I think they decided to just take it. And the other countries were happy to expand the scope of the exercise. And taken together, it is to have these four countries operating together on a joint exercise in the South China Sea is significant. It is a show of unity and a show of force, and particularly given the Philippines' current security problems, I think it's very welcome in Manila.
We saw this maritime drill from the side of the United States and its allies and partners. But what about the Chinese side? China said that it also conducted patrols as well in the South China Sea.
Yeah, I don't read too much into. I think that the China announced theirs mostly just to sort of for show, so that they could say that they are doing something in response. There's no reason to think. I mean, the two groups didn't, as far as we can tell, come particularly close to one another. So I don't think there was ever any real danger of that. China certainly was paying attention, and so they wanted to show that they were doing something.
You've talked about the importance of this assertive transparency campaign from the Philippines to continue posting and sharing what it's experiencing in the South China Sea with the rest of the world. Is it safe to say that this campaign is working?
Well, so I think you're absolutely right that the Philippines, through its assertive transparency campaign, has earned this level of attention from the U.S. and its other allies. And I think that the U.S. and its allies want to make sure that the Philippines gets that message that, that actually it is worth it. It is worth it to go out and tell the world what's going on. I think it's very unlikely that some of these things would be happening at all if the Philippines had not done this, right? If the South China Sea had sort of remained quiet, and none of the pictures had come out, and if they'd sort of suppressed the information as they had in the past, I think it's very unlikely that you'd be seeing a trilateral summit in Washington, D.C., or a quadrilateral naval patrol in the West Philippine Sea.
Are we seeing a shift in the alignment from the Philippines in terms of working more closely with the United States to deter and to kind of offset the challenges it's facing from China and the South China Sea?
Absolutely. I think that what the Philippines has realized is that under its previous policy, when it was sort of isolated in discussions with Beijing took advantage of it, and sort of took advantage of the fact that if a big person, a 250-pound, muscle-bound man walks into a room with a 12-year-old, then the bully has all the advantages, and so can sort of take whatever he wants. And so now what the Philippines has done is increased its leverage and said, look, I've got big friends too. But now when you look at the Philippines, you don't just look at the smaller country. You can see that there are others standing by the Philippines, and that increases the Philippines' leverage. And that's really what the Philippines needs.
That was Ray Powell, a security analyst from the Sea Light Initiative at Stanford University, speaking to our reporter Jaime Okan. An expected meeting between Taiwan's former President Ma Ying-jeou and Chinese President Xi Jinping has apparently been delayed and may coincide with the U.S.-Japan-Philippines summit. Tiffany Wong takes a look at what that could mean.
Former Taiwanese President Ma Ying-jeou shaking hands with his compatriots in China. On a visit to Shanxi province, Ma was greeted warmly by fellow Taiwanese tourists. Ma is leading a group of Taiwanese students on a visit to cultural sites in China. During the trip, which is meant to emphasize peace between their two countries, Ma hopes to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping, whom he's called an old friend. Tensions across the strait are currently at a high as China intensifies its claims of sovereignty over Taiwan, just as the island nation is set to inaugurate a new president, whose policies are seen by Beijing as less than friendly. Ma was hoping to meet with Xi to cool tensions, and a friendly meeting between the two was expected on April 8th, but is now anticipated to happen on April 10th. There's been no official confirmation from either side, but if it happens, experts note that the meeting would coincide with the beginning of summits between the U.S., Japan, and the Philippines, which all share disputes on China's claims to the South China Sea, and may help Xi direct the narrative of this meeting.
Xi has not really done Ma any favors by moving this meeting, because it really just takes away from Ma's claims that this is about cross-strait friendship and leans much more into this broader geopolitical framing. But to most people, I don't know that they will actually lead to any sort of significant changes in cross-strait policy.
Ma and Xi have met once before, in Singapore in 2015, when Ma was still president of Taiwan. But Ma's been out of office now for 8 years, and with no official role in his country, any meeting he has with a Chinese leader might not hold much weight on cross-strait relations, or any sway over geopolitical conflicts. Eason Chen and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
We're going to jump to a quick break, but up ahead, much of North America gets ready for a long-awaited solar eclipse. Stay tuned.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
For TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
For the biggest stories in tech, business, and more, be sure to follow TaiwanPlus on social media.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has met with Chinese Premier Li Qiang in Beijing to discuss concerns about China's overproduction. Yellen reiterated U.S. concerns about China's overproduction of electric goods, saying China's excess industrial capacity impacts both China and global economies. She and Premier Li agreed that, quote, tough conversations over the past year have put the two countries' relationship in a more stable position.
As the world's two largest economies, we have a duty to our own countries and to the world to responsibly manage our complex relationship and to cooperate and show leadership on addressing pressing global challenges.
Australia, the United States, and the UK are set to begin talks on expanding their AUKUS defense pact. Defense ministers from the three countries will announce the expansion on Monday, with Japan among the countries expected to show interest in joining. The deal will open up what's known as Pillar 2 of AUKUS, which covers technology sharing and military cooperation. It does not include Pillar 1, designed to deliver nuclear-powered attack submarines to Australia. AUKUS was first announced in 2021, part of Washington's efforts to enlist allies to counter China's growing military strength in the Indo-Pacific region. South Korea has successfully launched its second spy satellite as it races with North Korea for a military advantage. South Korea's defense ministry says the SpaceX rocket carrying the satellite launched from Florida's JFK Space Center on Sunday, successfully sending its payload into orbit. The satellite has a synthetic aperture radar, which allows it to produce images regardless of weather conditions. North Korea previously vowed to launch 3 new reconnaissance satellites in 2024 and has said that it successfully launched a spy satellite into orbit last November. Millions of people are preparing for a rare cosmic spectacle in the skies above North America. Harrell Hughes tells us more.
Readying their glasses, telescopes, and a viewing spot. A total solar eclipse will pass over North America, and millions of people are preparing for a glimpse at the rare celestial spectacle.
I'm addicted to that feeling of that being that for those few seconds or minutes, being one with the universe and being really present and feeling it. And then, of course, there's always the planning for the next one. My life is measured in eclipses.
Total solar eclipses happen when the moon lines up perfectly with the sun, creating a shadow on Earth and a path of total darkness. They occur every 1 to 3 years, usually at the Earth's poles or in the middle of the ocean. But this total eclipse will be in full view. The path begins in Mexico's Pacific coast, traveling across 15 U.S. states and into Canada's Atlantic coast. An estimated 32 million people live along the way, and millions of others are making travel arrangements, hoping to cross its path and spend the 4 minutes of darkness gazing in amazement.
Antes estaba relacionado con desastres, con destrucciones. Ahorita no, ahorita es un fenómeno que nos habla de la hermosura, yo lo puedo decir así, de la hermosura de la creación, de la hermosura de los astros.
A solar eclipse of some kind happens on average twice a year. But an eclipse passing through the same path happens only every 375 years. Aside from travel, the rare cosmic event has inspired new tech and even special lessons in classrooms for students who will get to see it for themselves.
I was teaching them about the solar eclipse and how the moon, earth, and the sun line up together, creating a shadow on the earth.
It's like when the moon goes around the earth, so it becomes dark. I think, yeah. It's gonna in the afternoon it's gonna be really dark.
While millions of people are hoping to simply catch a glimpse, others are looking to the stars for answers as the U.S. approaches another election year.
Final boop of it, the final effects of it, will be during election season when the actual election occurs in the United States. And in astrology, Pluto returns are associated with the fall of empires. This is a nation that is going through a major crisis. And one way or another, from an astrological viewpoint, we will have a revolution. The question is, whose revolution? How will that play out?
The next solar eclipse in North America won't be visible for another 20 years. But with this one crossing a wide stretch of land, millions will have access to the rare cosmic event right from their front door. And millions more are traveling to see the celestial phenomenon for themselves. Ryan Wu and Harrell Hughes for TaiwanPlus.
From the cosmic to the divine, huge crowds in central Taiwan have delayed this year's Dajia Mazu pilgrimage a record 6 hours. Officials say a combination of street food vendors blocking the way and the large number of pilgrims surrounding Mazu Sedan caused the delay in Changhua County. This year's procession has attracted over 200,000 followers since setting off on Saturday. The Dajia Mazu pilgrimage is an annual event in Taiwan celebrating the sea goddess Mazu. The Hakka lion dance is declining in Taiwan with fewer and fewer practitioners. But one of the art form's last masters is keeping it alive with new ideas. Sandy Chi has the story.
恋爱本身是两探人啦，两探还是讲私人的啦。佢今年都是80岁来的啊。佢种是生人的时节就接触到了客家诗，客家诗嘅基礎和客家詩嘅語法。
With focus and patience, Master Liao Wenzhen is adding new layers to an old cultural tradition. He is working on the centerpiece of the Hakka lion dance. Hakka lion dance is a martial and performance art that originated in China. It was brought to Taiwan centuries ago by the Hakka people. But it's slowly fading as other kinds of entertainment compete for attention. That's why Liao, one of the last masters of Hakka lion dance, is adding in new elements to keep up with current trends.
客家诗是在于我们的好几千年的历史啊，说现在因为时代的潮流你就让它失传掉、消灭掉，有没有？我们感觉到非常的可惜啦。
76-year-old Liao has dedicated 45 years of his time and energy to the Hakka lion dance in Taoyuan, northern Taiwan. Throughout his life, he's come up with ways to keep the art form in the public eye.
你的客家诗现在我不发扬下去，将来也会被社会淘汰掉啊！没有创新就没有进步啊。
Traditionally, the lion heads only came in 2 colors, yellow and green. But thanks to Liao's innovation, they now feature many different colors and patterns.
我们客家人叫做5代同堂啊，5代同堂啊，就是把5种颜色比较花俏，要表演出来，看起来就比较华丽。所以我现在制作的丝绸的彩绘呢，我也有黄丝，也有橘的，也有红的， 也有黑丝，也有蓝丝。
Liao is not just changing up the colors, he also produces Hakka lion heads in different sizes, using materials that are both lighter and easier to find.
我用水搅拌哈，用纱布啊，一层纱布一层的纱布，比较不容易裂掉，而且那做起来又比较轻。
Performers of all ages can use the small and lighter lion heads, and they can also perform the new dances Liao choreographed.
所以我训练就把那个客家的国歌，把拿着丝轴配合那音乐来跳这个舞，好，所以叫创意客家诗。那是我又开发一个新的出来，新的产品，新的表演的项目之一。
But making a small Hakka lion head is almost as difficult as making a big one. It requires a lot of patience and attention to detail, and can take up to 1 month.
所以说要很细心哦，不能大意哦。
Building up the basic layers, shaping the rectangular jaw, painting and adding patterns, all requires a very steady hand.
这个就是葫芦啊，这个就桐花啊，这个就先天的八卦啊。
Throughout his career, Liao has crafted hundreds of Hakka lion heads in all sorts of colors and sizes. With his innovative ideas and a deep passion for the craft, Liao hopes the art form will flourish in Taiwan. He also hopes to share his innovations and enthusiasm in China, fostering a cross-strait cultural exchange and ensuring the survival of this traditional art. Kamashu, Klein Wang, and Sani Chi for TaiwanPlus.
And thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. Take care, and I'll see you next time.